Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Terrace Talk. Certainly the most important one of the season so far. Norwich City travel to Ipswich Town on Sunday for the first East Anglian derby since 2024. Well, it feels like longer than that, but I'm delighted to be joined by Benjamin Bloom, Ipswich Town fan and an EFL. I don't know what's the right word. I was going to say expert, but you probably. I feel like we've gone opposite ends of the scale there. But either way, I'm delighted to be joined by you, Ben. It's kind of an interesting one to speak to you about because I know you're probably more level-headed than the average fan going into a game like this. So to start off with, I wanted to kind of ask you how you feel going into these games. Is it that beyond the kind of the YouTube channel exterior, you're actually as emotional as everyone else about it, or no?
I tend to find the worst bit, say, the hour or two before the game. Once the game's kicked off and it's with the players, then it's going to be what it's going to be. The hour or two before, I really struggle with. That just strange, sicky feeling in the stomach. It's probably alien to Norwich fans because obviously with the 16-year streak going, that maybe pours it on a little bit. I've got to admit, in the game as well, you just start writing the little stories in your head of what's going to go wrong this time, etc. Yeah. But no, it does funny things to East Anglian football fans, this game, doesn't it?
It definitely does, and I think probably that's, although you say obviously there is that unbeaten streak for Norwich over the last 16 years, probably the fear of it has now created a level of that feeling in the stomach for Norwich fans as well, and it probably feels like that's a lot of the context going into this weekend's game as well. Obviously, Norwich not in the best form. I think Ipswich probably yet to hit the heights that a lot of people expect them to this season, but still certainly in better form than Norwich. So what have you made of their start to the season overall so far?
Who, Towns?
Ipswich.
No, not great. It's been frustrating because it feels like for quite a number of transfer windows in recent times, and I'm talking 3 to 5 years for Ipswich, it feels like there's been loads of players in and loads of players out. And when that didn't happen, go figure, is when Ipswich had success, when McKenna kind of got his players and there was Broadhead and Hurst and Luongo came in, and then pretty much no one came in, and then Kiefer Moore, and that was pretty much it. And you go up to the Premier League with a League One squad, you have to sign a load of players, and then as Norwich fans will know, you get relegated. Yeah, you've got the parachute payments, but tends to be a massive churn in that summer as well, not helped by the fact the window closes 1 month into the season. So, I mean, it's first world problems, isn't it? I mean, Norwich have been on the other side of these conversations from the teams that haven't got the parachute payments, saying, oh, how our heart bleeds while you're having to sell players for 20 and 30 million pounds and what have you. But just haven't quite clicked with the new squad yet. And I don't know. They've won back-to-back home games. Yeah, there's a 5-0 in there. Obviously, there's a big mitigating factor of what was going on at Sheffield United at that point, and a virtuoso individual performance by Jayden Philogene. And beat Portsmouth. Could have been a 3-0 game, ends up being a 2-1 game, and you're like, okay, so I don't know. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 so far in terms of... What's been your perception from your end?
I would say it's probably, if you ask most Norwich fans, the average would be lower than 5 or 6 out of 10. I think, when you look at Ipswich, I mean, it's kind of like I said, obviously, I feel like that squad will probably get better, and you can probably feel as in better on that. But I think you look at the players in there, you'd expect it with a head coach as capable as Kieran McKenna to blossom into something a little bit better than they are right now. But I think we can all see the kind of struggles you talk about, and the fact that they're still kind of getting used to each other. I think earlier on in the season there was a feeling that this might have been one of the worst East Anglian derbies for some time in terms of quality.
Well, they're all terrible, aren't they? They're all awful games normally, aren't they?
Well, this is a problem with derbies: is we hype them up as these huge games, and then they are just a lot of them is just kind of.
But it's like cup football, where
Yeah.
the consequence of cup football is that you get knocked out of a tournament if you literally lose that individual game, and you have that same sense that nobody wants to lose this game.
No, exactly, and I felt like that, particularly the last time Norwich went to Portman Road when it was that 2-2 and John Rowe got a couple of goals. It felt to me, and also in the reverse fixture at Carrow Road, like probably those Ipswich players had felt the weight of the occasion. I don't know whether that was just because Norwich had certainly at that time, more of a sort of experienced squad who had been through things in the Championship, particularly more than the Ipswich squad had. But I kind of wanted to ask you whether that was likely to repeat itself this time round, because I think we all know, the way that Mark Ashton likes to whip things up, and there's certainly that weight of expectation, which is probably fair when you look at the two sides at the moment. Do you think that first experience, or the couple of games a couple of years ago, would have helped some of those players, or do you think there'll still be some of that nervousness from the Ipswich players about the derby?
They've all been sold, mate, haven't they? Yeah. There'll be the irony is, and we haven't mentioned the Chilean central midfielder yet, that one of a few players to have actually played in the derby has made this mind-bending transfer between the two. But no, Leif Davis will play and George Hurst will play, and that's about it. In fact, you might be able to correct me. I think George Hurst might have been injured for.
I think he was. Yeah,
both,
I remember
both of it. He might not have played in either of them. I can't quite remember, but so he might not have even played in the game anyway. Yeah. Look, elite sportsmen have very different mentalities to fans like you and me, and they can block this stuff out. We are dealing with Championship players here, and not World Cup winning players and Champions League players, and football stadiums ridden with anxiety can affect football players, can't they? So there's always that. If the players get a sniff of, this feels a bit different than it normally does around, there's something in the air, which there always is at both stadiums in the derby. So it can affect them. I don't know, maybe this is me accentuating the positive with a kind of subliminal Ipswich bias here, but I tend to run the argument that if players haven't been around, like Matosiwa, literally just signed, played in France, surely he's not going to be bothered by the 16 years of history. And with the way the two clubs have gone, and the Premier League years at Norwich and the recent one at Ipswich, it's the fans that have got the attachment to the fixture, and we're talking about multinational. I'm not saying players not from these shores don't care, but it's very different than it was, certainly when I was growing up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I completely agree that there's probably that detachment, and sometimes we have to remember, it's like if me and you went and played in, I don't know, some obscure derby in Italy. As much as we'd go, this is a derby, it's slightly exciting, we probably wouldn't understand all of the history.
We wouldn't care as much as the fans on the terraces would. That's just being a fan, isn't it?
No, exactly, and that's kind of an element that probably has to be considered as well. But you mentioned his name there, so I'll ask you. I
don't think I did I?
Who was that? Oh, that's true.
You said I no-sold it completely, didn't I?
No, you've done well there. I was going to just come out with it. Here I am on this Norwich City channel, just gonna say it, and you were very respectfully declined to. But I will now. Marcelino Nunez obviously joined Ipswich for an initial 7.5 million back in the transfer window. As much controversy, I'm sure, as you would imagine. Take us back then, and what the feeling was like around, among Ipswich fans, and then tell us a bit about how he's fared so far.
Just the most incredible transfer story we've had at either of the clubs, probably, since you've been doing this or since I've been doing this. And fair play to Ipswich and Norwich. I don't know at what point, I know you're very well tied in, at what point you got a sniff of it, but they did damn well to keep it so quiet. And, once it kind of broke, all hell broke loose. And, Norwich media managed it as well as they could have done. dare I say, the unveiling videos and things of that
Yeah.
nature. It is what it is in social media nowadays. Every club kind of gets involved with that side of it and that part of the theatre. But yeah, I never thought I'd see the day. I'm sure you would have been across it though, Sam. Nunez starting in the middle of a 3-game week in an away game over at Bristol means probably not going to start at the weekend, and it'll be Matasiwa and Kayust. But you can rest assured, at some point in the second half, that board is going to go up, and you just don't want it to become a circus when he comes into the game, do you?
Yeah, I think it probably depends. I think probably the Norwich fans will want it to be a circus to a certain extent. They'll certainly want to let him know how they feel about him, but probably
which is fine. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it for Ipswich depends on the state of the game, because if Ipswich are 2-0 up and Nunez comes on and he's getting loads of abuse, I don't think any Ipswich fan is going to care about that. They're going to just be enjoying themselves. So yeah, it'll be interesting, certainly, if and when that moment comes. As you mentioned, he played against Bristol City in the week, so unlikely to start, but probably will play a part, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of role he plays. How's he done so far? Is he already kind of a key player at Ipswich, or would you say he's still kind of settling in?
He's not a key player. He's definitely a cult hero for obvious reasons immediately, and his every moment is obviously roundly, kind of celebrated. But it's Matasiwa and Kayust is the first choice kind of midfield. But the Championship, Sam, is 46 games. There's injuries, there's suspensions. There's a great need to have as much quality as you can possibly have. And you talk about his role. I can guarantee any free kick within 3 miles of the Norwich goal, who's going to be taking that, don't you? So, the ultimate flex would be for Ipswich to be able to... this is fantasy land for an Ipswich fan, to be a couple of goals up and to be able to bring him in for stoppage time as a nice flex. But there's bigger things at play for both clubs than what Mr. Nunez does in the derby. No,
that's true, and it kind of brings me on to the way that you see the game, because obviously, as we've discussed, Norwich not in the best of form. They've lost all of their home games. To be fair, they've done pretty well away from home, yet to lose there. So there's probably...
And they played Coventry and Stoke as well, yeah?
Yeah. I think they kind of eked out points in both of those games. So
didn't lose.
No, that's true. And maybe it's a similar task against Ipswich. So I'm interested to know what you've made of Norwich, and kind of, what you think of them going into this weekend's game.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed because I'd bigged up Manning. I like him a lot, and it felt like a good step. That Bristol City have glass ceilinged a little bit, and traditionally had never been able to get to the Premier League, whereas Norwich, the feeling is they're either in the Premier League or they're challenging to get into the Premier League. So that felt like a good step for Liam Manning, and I guess a little bit like Ipswich, the big struggle. People call me a Manning apologist, and I get it. I'm a big fan of his. But the big struggle has been to integrate so many new players, and this sense that a lot of potential has been bought. And yes, you've got a Josh Sargent there and a Harry Darling, who are just Championship bosh. Stick them in. They'll be in most Championship squads, and they'll be contributing. But he's not managed to knit it together. The only words I would say to the Norwich fans are that it was a slow burn at Bristol City, and it worked in the end. Got it going quickly at Oxford, I have to say. That didn't take long at all. And MK, he picked up your boy Russ Martin's team there, but they finished in the middle, and he scored high 80s and got them, playoff semi-final where they just got wickemed by Gareth Ainsworth. You know all this history anyway. I think he's a good manager. I think it's a bit of a tricky gig. There's natural inertia every year you are away from the Premier League, and Norwich have obviously done a brilliant job of trading, and the thing with the parachute payments and the kind of law of diminishing returns is you've got to keep as much asset, trying to keep the plate spinning. And Norwich has done a brilliant job of selling on a Johnny Rowe or a Gabriel Sara or a Marcelino Nunez. So there's still a lot of quality there. It's just how much time does Manning get? And, it's almost the worst. David Wagner getting them into the playoffs was almost delayed the progress, because they could have gone to the new style and development season quote earlier than they did. And now you've had one under Torup and another one after, with Manning, and it just gets harder and harder every year. But I always say about Norwich, in the hierarchy of English football, Norwich are most definitely a top 30 club, aren't they? There's, so they should be. That puts you in the top 10 in the Championship, challenging for the playoffs. And he's not meeting the expectations yet, but he's a good guy. He's a good manager, and given time, I think he will. Will he get the time? Yeah, you'll be better versed to tell me.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it probably, I'm not saying it's do or die this weekend, but I think a lot of Norwich fans, well, some of them definitely feel that way.
I hadn't realised, Sam, it's Bristol City next as well, isn't it?
No, it's a couple of, it's a few
of all the two games,
for Liam Manning. But yeah, I think probably this weekend will play into it a lot in terms of his future and how fans view him and the mood as well. And that kind of brings me on to how it might play out. So, yeah, Ben, I'm going to ask you how you see it playing out, and for a score prediction, if I can.
Well, for the first time since I've been, a pundit or a fan with a big gob and a platform, I'm going to predict an Ipswich win in the derby. And people always used to say, "Oh, you're being negative. You're sat on the fence." When was I ever wrong? It's a 16-year streak now, for God's sakes. But this is not Paul Lambert and Colin Quainer versus Daniel Farker and Emi Buendia anymore, is it? Ipswich now have firepower and weapons to use in this game. I still think the anxiety means, Sam, that Ipswich have to keep a clean sheet and they have to go 2 goals up, else they won't beat Norwich. If Ipswich are 1 goal up with any amount of time to go, Norwich will equalise. So they need to go 2 goals up. They need to keep the first clean sheet against Norwich at Portman Road for 27 years is what I think is required. But the Championship just at large has just been very draw heavy. I don't want to criticise managers, but Rob Edwards, Mark Robbins, Ryan Mason, even Marty Cifuentes, the way he's been setting Leicester up, Paul Heckingbottom, Nathan Jones are all in the top 9 at the moment, playing quite risk-averse football. And I get it, they're not the clubs with the big budgets in the Championship, but we've seen a lot of draws and not a lot of shots on targets. Maybe in some of Norwich's away games there's been plenty of shots, but so I think Ipswich could squeak it. I'll contradict myself. I'll go 1-0 Ipswich, but part of me thinks they won't win unless they get 2 goals up, because they're definitely going to concede.
Yeah.
But I'll go 1-0 and contradict myself over and again. What do you think?
I think, well, first of all, your 27-year stat it's either one of those that gives me confidence or makes me think, along
Norwich always score at Portman Road. Something about those yellow shirts. And it always seems to be the first shot at goals. It seems to fly in, whatever happens.
Yeah, so I can see them scoring 1. I think you mentioned earlier the draws against Coventry and Stoke, and I wouldn't be shocked if it plays out in a similar way in terms of the game. Obviously, I think at the moment it's hard to dispute that Ipswich are the better side, but
name me a better striker in the Championship than Sargent, though.
That's
excellent striker, yeah.
And they're definitely good enough to provide a moment at some point, and I think that's why they keep kind of picking up these points away from home. So I'm going to be relatively optimistic, although I think this might be me slightly taking the professional hat off and going heart over head.
God.
I'm going to say that they squeak out a 1-0 draw. I can't see them winning at all, but I think with that record, if they can manage to escape with it intact without losing to Ipswich for the first time in 16 years, then it will feel much like it did last time at Portman Road. It will feel like a win. So
it felt like by the time Johnny Rowe scored in that game, Ipswich could have been 3-0 up. And it's just that how how those big moments have gone in those.
Yeah.
And Broadhead, I absolutely loved, and he's now obviously off at Wrexham, but he should have had a hat trick in that game. And just that, I don't want that heart sink moment where you can imagine Manning bringing Norwich out and saying, look, keep it tight, 20 minutes. Ipswich having loads of the ball, making loads of chances, not scoring any of them, and then bop. Norwich, one chance, one goal, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, not again. Please, not again.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I was going to say, let's hope that doesn't happen for you, but I'm going to say.
You just want me to be happy, Sam, don't you? Surely.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Let's see, but it will be, although it probably won't be that entertaining as derbies tend not to be. It will certainly be interesting. Ben, I think most Championship fans will have seen your content previously, but just in case they haven't, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the Benjamin Bloom football channel, plenty of stuff going on there. We have the great Sam Parkin on each and every week on the Championship Check-In podcast. Well, he's pundits for Sky and Co-Coms. We chat to him every single week. Predictions and watch-alongs and lots of good stuff. So we do talk about Norwich every Sunday as well in the Hot Takes video. We cover every team. So even the most dyed-in-the-wool Norwich fan, you get some value, hopefully, out of coming and watching this Ipswich fan.
Definitely, and of course we would recommend. And also, if you're a Norwich fan, pinken.com/subscribe, the best place for all of the content going into this weekend. And let's hope it's got a positive spin, but we'll see. Thanks very much for watching Terrace Talk. Thanks, Ben, for joining us, and we'll see you for the next one when hopefully we're not talking about a first loss to Ipswich in over 16 years.